All right, finally doing it. I'm making the ultimate climb up tutorial, how to get onto the top of a wall as quickly as absolutely possible. In the parkour community, as you all know, we call these climb ups. And I'm gonna take you from climb ups that look like this to climb ups that look like this. And I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know from top to bottom on how to get there. If you are in the middle of like climb ups and your climb ups kind of look like this, then don't worry, I'm going to be taking you from that step to this step. You might want to skip ahead in the video if you feel like you already know quite a bit about climb ups, but stay for the first little bit here because I'm going to go over some instructions on exactly, where you should be putting your hands, how you should be putting your feet, and what the best way to develop your climb ups are. But if you are not stuck on the very beginning stages, then you can skip ahead and I'll have the time codes down at the bottom. I'm going to be going over different exercises that you can do to help. Mainly I'm going to be going over technique, and I'm going to be showing you the proper step-by-step process of climb ups, because I know we have these levels for climb ups at the moment, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, but there are so many different intermediate stages that you can be using that people just don't really know about. So I'm going to explain everything to you here today. This is the last climb up video you're ever going to need, and you're going to be able to get on top of those walls as quickly as possible. And it's going to be great, man. It's going to be great. If you're new here, usually we don't usually do tutorials. We usually like go around from town to town and we'll meet new people and do parkour with them, learn about their style of moving, and then incorporate that into our own styles and take you along for the journey. All filmed in beautiful cinematics, and we really try and dig into our minds about what it is that we're fearing when we're going through jumps and stuff like that. So you should subscribe now.
Do it.
I think you're going to enjoy it.
Do it.
Definitely don't put it off.
Do it.
If you've just come across this channel, you don't want to lose it, subscribe now.
Do it. Do it.
Definitely a good idea. So the first thing I'm going to cover is your hand and foot placement and how to properly be hanging on the wall, and what a difference that makes. So the reason I'm going to cover this at the beginning is because no matter which stage you're at in terms of the climb up progressions, you're always going to need to know where your hands and feet are. And that, that could be holding you back right now. So what you want to do, first thing is to make sure that your hand starts right across here, right across the bit where it's the bottom of where your knuckles would be on your hand, right? So you want to put that over the top of the wall, and you want to clamp your thumb over the top as well. So you've got the knuckle of your thumb on the wall and the top of your palm across the wall. And this should give you the maximum grip. I used to enjoy having like more of a fingertip grip, but I found that limited me in later climb ups when I got better at them. So I recommend just starting right from the beginning and getting that right across your palm, and that's the best place to do it. Get as much of your hand on there as possible, because when you're transitioning and you eventually get to that point where you can transition without any hand reposition, you want to have as much of your fingers across the wall as possible so that you can just do that straight flick up right into your climb up. So that's a good place to start. So the next important thing, equally as important, is your foot placement. And what you want to make sure you're doing with this is you don't want your foot too high, because if your foot's too high, then it makes it really difficult to pull yourself towards the wall. Your foot and your leg are getting in the way. And if your foot is too low, then you're just going to continuously slip down the wall, and that's obviously not what we want either. So you want to find that sweet spot where your knee and your foot isn't kind of in the way, but it's also not just slipping down every time and you're just pulling your neck straight to the wall. So that's an important thing. So obviously you're going to have one foot higher than the other foot, usually your dominant foot. And depending on, you might change that depending on what foot you prefer to flick up on, and for the middle stages that can be quite important. But what I would urge you to do realistically is drill all kinds of different foot positionings. Once you've got the hang of the more basic climb ups, it's important to do that, because when you do a cat leap, you could be, if you're doing a big one, you could be landing feet together. You could be landing and like dropping one leg down, or you're not always going to be in the perfect position. So I would recommend learning to drill them from different foot positionings. But while you're still learning, while you're on this path of just working your way through the levels, this is the perfect foot positioning for you. The other thing I will mention is you want to be drilling your climb ups from a full arm extension. You want your arm all the way up. You don't want to be starting from a halfway point, because if you start from like a halfway, you don't have the full leverage that you do. Because if you're here and you're trying to pull versus you're here and you've got all this extra like room to pull, that's what you need in your climb up. So you don't want to be at this half right angle, starting with your face half like this, because you feel like you're closer to the wall. You want to be like arms fully extended and bang. So when you're first learning to climb up, a big debate is whether or not you should be working on your strength or working on your climb ups in terms of like, is it technique based or is it strength based? Now, I personally would say that those are two linear boxes that you don't really need to be thinking in. You need to be thinking about the idea that your strength and your technique are going to increase at the same time. So if you're someone who can't pull yourself up on top of the wall and you haven't even managed to like sort of get your elbows on top, then that's definitely a strength thing and you should be looking into that. But what we're covering right now is assuming that you can already do that. You want to think of this in terms of like a movement technique / strength exercise. So when you're training the strength, you have to train your motor neuron pathways to allow for that movement pattern, because you can be strong as anything. You can do a bunch of chin-ups, muscle ups, you can be quite strong in that area, but if you've never done a climb up, you're still going to struggle because your body doesn't understand how to move in that way. And when I was first learning my climb ups, it took me 6 months to go from 0 to a straight arms climb up, which I was super happy with, and I think that's completely achievable goal for everybody. But what I did was I consistently drilled my climb ups, and we're going to go over some sets and reps that you can do later on in the video. But right now you just need to understand that you're training a movement pathway. You're not just like, I need to get stronger or I need to change this little thing. Just remember what I said about where to put your feet and where to put your hands, and that's basically all you need in terms of to be doing wrong technique or something like this. There's a few little caveats to this, which I'll go over in the different sections of the climb up as we progress. But for now, just understand it as like, you can do your strength work on the outside, like you can work on your push-ups, you can work on like wall dips and cat pull-ups, and that's a great place to start. But if you can get yourself on top of the wall, then your absolute best bet is to continually drill the climb ups. And like I said, I'll go over the sets and reps a bit later on, but it's not a case of like going home, doing a bunch of strength exercises, and then like coming out and hoping your climb ups would be better. It can facilitate it, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that, but the quickest, most easy way to improve your climb ups is to just do a bunch of climb ups, because it's a movement functional pattern. All right, so climb up phase 1. So let's assume, like I say, that you can already get yourself on top of a wall by scrambling up, and we're gonna look to improve that now. So the first step in your climb up journey is gonna be an asymmetrical climb up. So with an asymmetrical climb up, what you're aiming to do is pull your chin as high as you can right towards the wall. A common mistake is that people try and pull a little too far away from the wall, and then they don't have that strength, and they're not creating the correct angle for themselves to get on top of the wall. So you want to be pulling your neck towards the wall, and then you're going to aim to get one elbow up on top. And the reason this is the one you do first is because you can kind of, from this hanging position here, you can kind of launch your body up and over into this kind of a position, and you'll get your elbow on top, and you can move yourself sideways, and then you can go with the other side and push yourself up straight. The best thing to do with this is to just drill it and drill it. The idea behind this step is to take away your elbows and just stop you from using that way of moving where you just slap your forearms on top. You wanna try and get that elbow up and start using this little bit of strength to move yourself from here to here. And it's still a bit of a scramble. This is why you do the asymmetrical portion, but just to get yourself used to not putting those arms up on top of the wall. So this is a super messy climb up, but it's gonna be the absolute best first step for you, and it's the most accessible to most people when they first start doing climb ups. Once you've got yourself into a straight arm position on top of the wall, you want to practice doing your flick ups. Now, what I say is that every single time you get yourself into a waist position, you want to be practicing your flick up. Now, you never want to be lazy and just go one foot and then the other foot, because you start training yourself into that lazy movement pattern. And like I said, it's all about building those neural pathways so that your body automatically gets itself into the right position. So you're on top of the wall, and you want to make sure that you practice getting yourself into a dish type of a shape. So you don't want to be relaxed and arched when you're in your waist position. You want to strengthen up your core and hollow out and go into this dish position. It's the best possible position you have for your flick up. And what the flick up is all it is just kicking one leg backwards and then lifting both legs on top of the wall. So this can be super hard for a bottom line beginner. So you might have to just start with getting one foot on, then the other foot on. That's absolutely fine, but it's worthwhile drilling that particular move just to get both feet up at the same time as soon as you can. And it won't take very long for you to develop, but it's very easy when you're tired and you've been drilling climb ups to just neglect that part of it. And as you'll see as we go through the climb up tutorial, this plays a really big part in your actual final big time climb up. While we're on the topic of flick ups as well, I just want to mention that I think it's really important to do a flick up between your arms rather than round and out to the side. It might be a good starting position. Like I said, going round to the outside is a little less daunting if it's your first time, but you want to continuously drill flicking up into between your hands, because when you're eventually doing those climb up and ons, that's going to be the motion that you need. You're going to need those legs to come up and in between your hands, because going around out to the side is it's sort of just poor form in terms of the climb up. You're not going to be ready for a second jump, and it's a lot harder when you're going for the climb up and on. So just practice getting those feet in between the middle of your hands rather than round to the outside. And like I say, it's just so important to practice correctly. You have to practice correctly if you want to make perfect. So now we're on to our next step, which is the symmetrical climb up, your first symmetrical climb up, but you're going to use asymmetrical hand positioning. You're going to pull yourself up to the position where your chin's above the wall, and then you're going to slowly slide a hand on top, slide another hand on top. That's your asymmetrical portion of the climb up. Then you're going to pull yourself in, try and lean your chest over the wall, and then you're going to push up with your triceps up to a straight arm position, and then do your flick up. So the important thing with this is, once you're learning, it's quite difficult to control where your hands go, and you might start cutting your wrists a little bit. You can wear bandanas on your wrists, or if you don't care, just do it anyway, and you get a bit of cuts on your wrists, and that's in parkour, that's quite a badge of honor. It means you've been drilling your climb ups hard. So common mistakes with this is you want to make sure that your elbows don't flare out too much. You want to kind of keep those tucked in and develop that position where you just rock over. Another one is to try and lift your chest too far back and not pull yourself into the wall. You always want to be pulling toward the wall rather than on the outside, because that creates the shortest lever and gives you the most strength for where you are. This is a fantastic move because it doesn't require any explosive pull. It just requires you to be stable in the position that you've created for yourself, and you don't need to do a quick palm switch, which is what we'll be learning in the next one. It's just like a nice slow 1, 2, pull up and push, and this will develop loads of strength. And it's a good thing because once you've passed that point of doing the asymmetrical climb ups, doing these really begins to build the muscle in the correct manner. It's the right movement pattern. So yeah, this is a fantastic one. So we're on to step 3, the next part of the climb up, and this is your very first symmetrical climb up with no asymmetrical components whatsoever. So we start normal cat position, pull right up, and this time you're gonna try and develop a bit of explosive movement here. So in the previous section, you want to just get this bit faster and faster. When you're putting your hands on top, you get them faster and faster moving like that. Now what we're trying to do is pull up and switch into this flat palm position, and then go straight into the rest of the climb up, which is just the second half of the previous step. When you're doing your climb ups, it's really important to be doing them as fast as possible. I know that sounds obvious, but like when you do it, what happens is you start to build more and more explosive fast twitch muscle fibers, because the faster you try and pull, the faster your muscles will think that they have to go. So when you can get yourself to this point where you pull and you change, and then you're like, yes, and then you can push the rest of the way up. As soon as that change comes, the second foot comes in ready to push you up and assist you with the rest of the way up. And then, like I say, make sure that you drill that flick up, go straight into it. The common mistake with this one, again, is to flare those elbows out. And believe me, this is what I did when I was first starting. I'd like flare my elbows right out. I'd be in this kind of position here. And what that would do is put a massive amount of pressure on my shoulder and elbow in a way that's not designed to have that kind of pressure, especially if you're going straight into a switch over. So what you want to make sure that you're doing is keeping those elbows tucked in. Switch here, you're like this, and then you're putting your triceps and your shoulders in a good position. You're not exposing your elbow or any joints. You're just using all muscle, which is the best way to go about it, obviously. Another common mistake is not switching the feet. You have to switch those feet because that second foot is gonna give you the push for the rest of the way up. It's also priming you to get that foot ready for a flick up when we move into the more advanced climb ups. It's priming that foot ready to get it so that it snaps into flick up position, because what you'll see later on is with a straight arm climb up, a lot of the time people just leave their feet dangling and then they're not ready for the flick up, and that's why their climb ups are a lot slower. But we'll get onto that in a minute. So our next step is basically just a progression from our previous step, and you'll find that you'll notice that this step comes naturally as you go. And you'll eventually just find yourself, if you keep drilling these and if you keep doing the sets and reps that we'll recommend in a minute, that you will get to the point where you're going to be pulling so fast that you're actually launching yourself quite high up onto this position. So rather than being here, you're gonna find yourself coming to sort of this position. Now at this point, you wanna find a wall that's super, super easy for you to do your climb ups on. Like everyone knows there's a really nice wall, it's the easiest wall that you've found to do your climb ups on. Go to that specific wall, and you're gonna try and move into this next step. And I remember when I first got this, it was the most amazing feeling, because what the difference is rather than being here, is you're gonna pull your chest over and you're gonna go straight into that position and then push yourself up. And it's a great feeling because it really feels like a proper climb up rather than like a two-step kind of thing. It feels like you're like, yes, you know, that's I'm on top of the wall in one bang. And that's a fantastic feeling. But what you need to do is, like I say, I would find an easier wall, one of your easiest walls. Master the other step on like harder walls, and then go to one of your easier walls and try this step out, because you'll find that it can be a hard thing to do on some walls. But if you've got like that nice easy wall, you can start training, like I say, the movement pattern. You get used to the idea of what it feels like. Because before this, you have no idea what it actually feels like to get yourself into that position. And that's obviously a big problem. So go and find yourself a wall, maybe even with a little bit of an overhang, not too much so that you can just pull yourself up super easily, but just a bit of like a ridge maybe on top of the wall. And you're gonna be able to like just pull yourself into this position. It's gonna feel great. And then you push up and then go straight into your flick up. Common mistake with this is generally that you aren't pulling yourself close enough to the wall. A lot of people try and go out and in, and I've been saying that a lot, but you have to make sure that you're pulling your chest over the wall. You want to get your nipples over the wall, and then and that will be your best position, center of gravity, to push yourself up. And then again, you want to be pushing yourself up as fast as possible. Try and train those fast twitch muscle fibers and get yourself into a position where you're doing this all quite quickly. And then as soon as you can, like I say, flick up. By the way, guys, if you have any questions about any of this, like there's some frequently asked questions that I might have missed, drop them in the comments below, let everyone know, and then I'll answer them. Be more than happy to share and help correct your technique if there's anything that you're having trouble with. Or you can hit me up on Instagram and show me a video and I'll give you some tips. But leave a comment down below just in case there's something that someone else is struggling with and I can help more than one person. That would be really, really good, just in case I've missed anything. So our next step is to take this climb up, and obviously you'll be in a position now where you've done a few of the previous step and you'll be pretty good at them by now. And you're basically gonna be in a position where you're pulling up, and actually rather than being like right over like this, you're like, oh, I'm finding myself a little bit higher, my arms are a little bit like this. And the best way to progress to this step is to start keeping your chest back as you go up. So you're pulling up and you're like, oh, okay, rather than like, oh, like that with your head over, you're gonna try and keep your head up and you're gonna be like here. And then you'll be like here, and you'll start pulling up and you'll find yourself like in this position. But the idea is to keep the chest back so that you're getting closer and closer to that straight armed position, which is what we want eventually as the main deal, right? So you want to keep practicing pulling yourself up as fast as possible. And like I said, the main way to progress this step is just to start keeping your head up and chest back. And you'll find it progresses naturally more and more and more. There's not much more to say about this step because it's just an extension of the previous step. But I just want to explain that that's the kind of way to make that transition, start getting that head up. Something I haven't mentioned yet, which we can talk about, is the knee drive. Now, I know a lot of people who coach climb ups put a big emphasis on the knee drive. I personally have never found it to be any help whatsoever, but I will mention it here because I know it does help some people. So what you want to do when you're doing your climb up, you've got one foot lower than the other. Now that lower foot, you want to try and lift your knee up as fast as possible whilst you're pulling yourself up, because it should help lift your momentum upwards. For me personally, I don't like to teach it that way just because I find that sometimes people spend a lot of concentration on their knee drive and it puts all of the attention down onto the leg that's barely doing anything, when your attention should be how fast and hard that you can pull and pulling with the correct positioning. So that's just my take on it, but I know that it does help some people, so it's worth mentioning and worth trying out if you are hitting any kind of plateau or if you're stuck in any kind of way. So it's also worth mentioning here that once you get to this sort of stage, maybe some conditioning outside of the climb ups can be helpful. Things like just general sort of chin up, pull up practice, because if you're doing it in conjunction with the climb ups, then you're still training that movement pattern, but you might be trying to gain strength outside of it. But like I say, don't use it to neglect your climb ups. You need to be working on that technique. But if you're just struggling to get any faster, then you might want to supplement with some dips or some chin ups. And there's basic movement patterns, as you know, you want to work on being able to pull and you want to work on being able to push, and that's all you need to worry about. You don't need to think, oh, I'm activating my biceps and back or whatever it is, which is for your pulling. But just think of it in terms of any kind of pulling motion or any kind of pushing motion. This is going to help you with your climb ups. But as I've said, it's more about drilling the technique over and over and over again. So as we progress from the previous step to the step I'm going to explain now, the differences become more minute and they become a little bit more something that you have to just sort of focus on, because you're going to feel like you're doing a good climb up now. And that's brilliant. You're in a place where you're like, okay, I'm doing climb ups, and you want to be doing them everywhere you get a chance. As soon as you're in a cat leap, don't let yourself ever bail out. You have to do a climb up every single time, wherever you are in the arm jump. You do your you do your climb up, and there's no exceptions. Otherwise, you're just going to put this off, and you're not going to get any better at it. And it's a super important part of parkour. I mean, I'm sure you've seen Jimmy the Giant's video that's just come out in about climb ups. I'm just explaining that climb ups are super important within your parkour movements, because they can be used in runs all over the place. And you don't want to be shying away from using them in your runs. Also, they have a massive impact on how well you can do dynos, how well you can do 180s, how well you can ascend things. I mean, it makes a huge difference to your overall movement and just expands that whole upper level. And it's so important. You don't want to just be focusing on, oh, how big is my precision jump? You really need to put some attention on your climb up. So with this next step, what we're aiming to do now is you're basically just getting yourself to a point where your arms are fully locked out. So it's almost absolutely no pushing motion now. But what you're going to do is you're going to find yourself in a position where all of a sudden you're like, okay, you know, I'm basically straight arming this every single time. So this is where we move into learning how to flick up in unison with your climb up, because, you know, climb ups always used to be thought of as just like, okay, I'm going to this position and then I'll just get my legs on the wall afterwards. But you can make this into a one full smooth motion, as you saw with like the climb ups that I showed you at the beginning. It's one motion to get you on top of the wall in one bang, and that's how we need to progress. So when you're first starting this, you're going to be progressing to what they call a level 3 climb up, where you climb up straight arms and immediately flick up. And the way you drill this is, remember me talking about the kind of dish shape that you want to be practicing when you're on top of the wall? That's the position you want to aim to climb up straight into. So at the moment you might be climbing up and just letting your waist hit the wall and then trying to do your flick up, right? And that's kind of the progression that comes naturally from the previous step. But now your aim of the game is to pull up so rapidly and then push yourself into this dish position so that your abs are flexed, you're in a hollow position, and your foot is ready to flick up. Because if you do your climb up and you're in a loose body position, then all you're going to get is dangling legs that need a minute to catch up and then ready to flick up. So your aim of the game, like I say, is to pull as fast as you can, hit the dish position, and get ready with the opposite foot's toe on the wall, ready for your flick up. Something I haven't mentioned, which actually is really important, is to practice your flick ups off of both legs, because eventually you're going to want to flick up off the leg that you're doing your climb up off. But it's interesting because in not all scenarios you're going to be flicking up with the same leg. And now you've gotten into the realm of being able to do a straight arm climb up, what you want to start doing is doing it from all different kinds of positioning. So like feet together, and then jumping in to a cat leap from a wonky position, and then climbing up off your left leg, climbing up off your right leg, flicking up off your left leg and right leg for different reasons at different times, and just start getting your whole body used to doing the climb up wherever it is, as fast as it can, wherever it is. And this is something that's really going to improve the speed of your climb ups, and that's why you do it. And then just keep drilling, man, drilling, all different shapes, all different sizes, all different positions, and you're going to get rapid at climb up. Something else that I need to mention when we get to this point is the common mistake I see a lot is the knuckle up. Now, I went through a phase of thinking that this wasn't a mistake, and this is actually, you know, it's just a personal preference, and that's fine. You know, some people do believe that. This is not going to help you when you get to the stages of level 4 and level 5, because you need to be able to keep your hand and your palm not changing positions at all. You know, if you start drilling that habit of knuckling over, and I also believe that it doesn't, like, say you're doing a climb up and then you immediately want to jump out of it, right? You don't have the same kind of control that you have with flat palms on top when you're knuckling over. So just for me, for my personal preference, but also, you know, I think that it will help you in the long run if you just learn to climb up by switching the hand position straight over, rather than knuckling over. All right, we're moving on to our level 4, which is, you know, most people can't do this, and it's pretty awesome if you can get yourself to the point where you do it. And if you're a climb up nerd like me, like, this is just so amazing to be able to do. Like, I'm super happy that I'm able to do this. It's not essential, and it's definitely not, it can be faster than the previous step, but it's not like it's so much faster that you need to squirm over being able to do it. But I'm gonna explain it to you now just because I think that it's worthwhile knowing about. So it's basically the same exact thing, but what you're trying to do is keep the one foot on the wall the whole time and not switch legs for your flick up. So you go from dead hang to pull straight up on top of the wall. The way you do this is normal positioning, everything's normal, but then as you're pulling yourself up, you want to kick your opposite foot out and back, and that gives you some leverage to lean over, lift your feet up onto the top. Like I say, this is super advanced, and you need to have a strong core and a strong body position to be able to do this. This is where a little more strength training may come in handy. Really start focusing on that core strength, and how fast you can pull makes a big deal here. You can do this step with a hand change, so you can do it and slide your hands over the top, but it is faster if you can just leave your hand where it is, not do any change, and just flick right up. So like, the key thing here is to have a really fast first part and be ready to kick, and like have enough strength that you can take care of getting on top of the wall and the flick up at the same time. And it's about getting that leg to flick back at the same time and just bring yourself on top of the wall. This is never going to work if you've got something wrong. For example, your foot positioning. If it's too high, it's going to get in the way. If it's too low, like, even if you've got enough strength to just pull yourself into a full climb up, if you've got your foot positioning wrong, you're not going to be able to get enough leverage and keep your foot from slipping while you're trying to do the flick up portion of this. So it's important to just kind of hone in where you put your feet and hone in that ability to land and put your feet in the right place every time. This is why it's just so important to keep doing your climb ups in every which way, in terms of like every wall that you land on, you're like, boom, climb up, wherever you are. You just train that motor neuron pathway so that you're constantly, so you don't even have to think about your climb ups. You don't think, oh, I've landed, okay, where are my feet going, where are my hands going? It's just like, boom, you land, boom, straight away, straight up. No fuss, no muss. So in terms of sets and reps, when you are going out and training your climb ups, like I say, I think the best bet is to just drill them as often as possible. When you go out, every single time you go out, you basically want to do 5 sets of 5, and that's, you know, a common, well-known strength building sets and reps range. If you're in the lower end of climb ups and you're still struggling quite hard, it might be an idea to do 5 sets of 3 reps. So that's 5 rounds of 3 up, down, with the flick up every single time, because obviously we don't want to train only one part. We've got to get the whole motion. So I reckon once you get to the point where you can do like this sort of climb up, that's when you start doing 5 sets of 5. Now, you don't want to just hop down off the wall and then go straight back for another set of 5. Hopefully you've got a group of people and you can go out and do that with your friends, and like build a culture of doing climb ups at the end of your sessions and just take a rest as they do their sets. But essentially, if you don't have that, you want to get about 3 minutes rest. The idea is to recover almost fully before your next set. So 3, if you want to push it, 5 minutes. I mean, it can take up a lot of time. So just get, if there's a group of 3 of you, by the time they've done their sets, you can do your sets. And it's so important to build this kind of climb up culture where everyone is drilling that. And because it's such an integral part of parkour, and to neglect it really does neglect a whole portion of your movement. So I think it's super important, and it'd be really cool if you can get your friends to do it with you, and you're all drilling your climb ups together and getting better at it. That's like a really cool vibe. So definitely try and get that rolling. That's pretty much all I recommend in terms of sets and reps. 5 sets of 5 at the end of every single session. Just make it happen. Every single time, like I say, you land in a cat leap, you should be doing a climb up. That's how you progress. You do a climb up every single time. You flick up on top of the wall, no matter how tired you are, and you make it on top of that wall, because you haven't finished your move. If you do a running cat leap and it's huge and it's amazing, you haven't finished your move until you're up on that wall. I personally, like, when I see a running cat leap or just anything like that, you know, a big move that lands in a cat leap, if you don't climb up at the end, I almost consider like you haven't even done it. It's like the whole point of parkour is to be moving in a way that you get past the obstacle. Unless, of course, you're using it just to drop down or whatever, but that's a different story. As you can tell, I've got quite a passion for climb ups, and yeah, that's why I enjoy talking about them so much. Me and my friend Ged, we used to spend hours, like we just like at the end of a session, we'd be like, okay, let's do 100 climb ups, and then we just wouldn't go in until we'd done 100 climb ups. All right, guys, I hope that informed you of exactly how to do a climb up. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you got something from this, please do comment down below and ask me any questions that you need to know about tips or anything like that. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already. If you've just stumbled across this channel and this has given you some value, it's well worth subscribing. Get those bells on, and you know, we bring you a video every single Tuesday at 5:30, and it's you know, we put a lot of effort into the content. I think you're going to really enjoy it, so definitely subscribe now. Like I say, just leave me a comment if there's any questions you have. If there's anything I didn't cover, just let me know. And yeah, I'll see you next Tuesday for another parkour journey, man. Oh, hey man.
Oh, what's up, Parkour Journeys, guys?
Yeah, look at this.
Parkour Journey's family.
Parkour Journey's family.
It's how you get better at climb ups.
It's hugs.